A couple of friends have pointed out to me the usage of the word victim. I think it's important to clarify my point of view when I encourage people not to be a victim. In my chosen recovery program, we are asked to list and deal with our side of the street and accepting responsibility for our own actions. In fact, the fifth column of our inventory sheet is called Our Part, but there are limitations to this. This is not a quote, but we are assured, and it is made abundantly clear, that in the case of abuse, we have no part. None. It's almost held up as a separate struggle, which I find appropriate. There is nothing more vile that one human being can do to another than abuse them in any way. Remember, you have no part, no responsibility. There's nothing on your side of the street to clean up except, unfortunately, the aftermath. I'm going to post this on my blog in writing. Thanks for listening, and welcome to Podcast 5 from AudioRising.com. Okay, so tonight, topic number 1 is about people showing patience even when they don't get it. Okay, and by it, I mean our mental and emotional struggles or our addiction issues. When we feel that people don't understand our struggles, we might think one of two things. 1, they don't see how much this hurts me. Or 2, maybe this is all in my head and I should just get over it. First off, you're right. They don't see or feel what this is costing you, how it hurts you, what's going on inside your head. A lot of it's unexplainable, and I've talked to a lot of other people that say, I don't want to explain it. It's too weird. It makes me sound foolish, embarrassed. But we, sometimes due to lousy self-esteem, don't see the heartache that our loved ones go through because they can't help us. We sometimes don't want to look at that. We don't want to see ourselves as being worth much, so we are all the more embarrassed or shame-filled by knowing that our struggles are affecting loved ones. I'll give you a prime example. I used to hate going to the movies or to the mall, or really any kind of an event, because if I couldn't make it through, I just ruined it for my wife. Can you imagine what it would be like to take my stepson or my daughter out to places, not knowing if I would make it or not? For those of you who have to deal with codependency issues, I don't want this to sound codependent, but we need to appreciate the fact sometimes that the people who love us are there for a reason. Now, maybe it's that they see the promise of who you could be and they're holding out hope. Well, that would be the same thing with someone who's dealing with an addicted loved one. Boy, I just see how much better you could be and how much self-worth you have or should have, and I just see all of your potential. But sometimes it's just the fact that no matter what the illness is on the surface, our loved ones, our true loved ones, see the heart underneath. I've been talking and chatting a lot about this the past couple of days, and it really is true. A lot of times we may not particularly care for some of the things we see on the surface, but it's the heart, it's the person underneath that we truly love. And sometimes we have to allow for that. They may look at our illness and just say, I don't get it. But we look at their love sometimes and say, I don't get it. So in a very common way, the person who's suffering from mental health issues has one set of circumstances to deal with inside their own mind, and then they have their loved ones to deal with. And it's true. Being inside our own heads is no fun, and people can't always get in the way they would like. We can't always let them in the way we would like. But we also sometimes don't understand the love that it takes to incorporate our issues into their lives as they decide to stay, as they decide to help, as they decide to just make our struggles part of their new normal. My point being, don't ever take them for granted. At the same time, don't ever sit and say constantly, I'm sorry, I wish I wasn't putting you through this. Because in reality, they didn't have to stay. They don't have to put up with it. There's something inside you, a God-given heart, a original design hardwiring that makes you the person that they fell in love with and that they are still in love with. Give your loved ones who are not affected by their own personal mental health challenges, give them the benefit of the doubt, cut them a little slack, and look in the mirror and realize there is something about me that is worth being loved. And that's from just another imperfect human. That's from someone who has their own set of flaws, and we all got them. Don't be one of those loved ones that sits around saying, well, you should have done this and you should have done that, and here's how you ought to handle it. And I just wish you would just don't do that. Be understanding, be supportive. The person who's dealing with mental health issues probably isn't real well versed in how to celebrate victories. Help them learn how to celebrate a victory. Help them learn that no victory is too small. For me, I always want to downplay being able to drive, being able to work, being able to go from point A to point B. Why do I want to downplay it? Well, shit, everybody can do that. What the hell's wrong with me? Don't do that. Victory is victory. Being a little better today is being a little better today, and the best you can offer is the best that you have. It's that simple. Now, to get on to subject number 2. Got on the subject the other night on Twitter of lists. Whether or not a person who struggles with anxiety or any multitude of different things deals with organizing, And I know some brilliant people. A couple people come to mind that are fantastic musicians, and they'll be the first ones to tell you they are not well organized because they have this kind of fly by the seat of your pants, really lighthearted attitude or melancholy attitude, either one of those. And they're just not real good with the details. They're like that stone that you throw that skips across the surface of the water and never really gets too deep. All their depth is in an area that they can't translate to other people very well. And then you have very, very detail-oriented people. And if you screw with their routine at all, you lose them. They're done. They just shut down. Well, my wife is a list person, okay, and she's like, okay, let's make a list. And I always end up saying, great, it's really not what I want to do. But let me relay a story to you that happened, and then hopefully I can kind of embellish how I'm trying to approach this these days. Some years ago, and when I say some years, I mean I was looking for a job and actually using a newspaper, so this was some years ago. And I ran across this ad for a job, and I read the ad to my wife, and I said, listen to this, employer seeks, da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, you go down this whole long list of things. And when I got done, she's nodding, and she's like, wow. She goes, that sounds like something you would thrive in. I said, you think? Because I was kind of excited about it. I could imagine doing this job. Of course, we're always 99.4% off on what the job really is like in our heads. We see one thing, and in reality, it's always something else. And usually it sucks. Anyway, and she says, yeah, that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she says, yeah, she goes, that looks like something that would really work for you because you thrive in structure. And I immediately, I'm not giving anything away, I've told her this story a dozen times over the years, I immediately got angry. And I'm like, structure? What are you trying to say? I have to have structure? What do I need, a playpen? I can't think outside the box? I can't this, I can't do, I didn't say any of these things because, of course, I'm codependent and I don't ever want to say anything to hurt anyone's feelings, usually. And I got really angry, and I was, and I never got the job. I couldn't even tell you what the job was. I don't even, I'm sure I applied for it, but that was probably it. But the thing that stuck to me all those intervening years was structure. Thrive in structure. What do you mean by that? Well, then, and I had long since been diagnosed as someone who deals with an anxiety issue, and I have chronic panic attacks and yada yada. But what I found out in the intervening years, especially when I got sober and got into recovery, is number one, I'm an anxious person, in my opinion, because of two things. I have some type of a biological predisposition, a chemical imbalance of the brain that allows my adrenaline to surge and allows my anxiety to peak and allows my adrenaline to, as one doctor put it, he says, picture it as a thermostat in your head, and the thermostat's broken. Everything's there to work properly, but the thermostat doesn't know when to shut off your adrenaline. And so it just runs rampant until my body eventually just says, okay, I'm sick of this, and shuts down. So a biological predisposition via chemical imbalance of the brain. The other thing is I was brought up in a culture of alcoholism and enabling, or what a lot of people refer to as codependency. We short circuit everything that could possibly change because we don't really want it to change, because this is how we control our environment. So that was the environment that I grew up in. It was chaotic. If you go online and do any kind of reading about adult children of alcoholics, and you will run into every single symptom that a person like me, who is a functional, anxiety-ridden person, and I spent 22 years being a functional alcoholic, I fall right into that category. Okay, so it's environment and it's biological predisposition. If I'd never picked up a drink, I probably wouldn't have any idea that I was an alcoholic. But when I did, something kicked in, and it was probably there from birth, and it was exacerbated through the environment that I grew up in, which perpetuated an unhealthy, chaotic situation, an unhealthy, chaotic set of coping skills. So when I got into recovery, there was structure, and I wanted to learn. I was like, hang on, I want to learn step one and understand what that means, and I want to understand step two, and I want to move on down the list, and I don't want to move on to the next one. So all of those things in my mind keep coming out as, boy, you're being very dogmatic about this structure thing. And I'm like, where's that coming from? Well, I had always been that way. But on the flip side of it, I want to fly by the seat of my pants. I don't want anything to be under control. I want to be able to jump ship from a job. I want to be able to jump ship in a relationship. I want to be able to change this and change that on a whim. And what I finally realized, at least for me, is I was born into chaos. So there's a part of me that craves structure. Now, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. Again, all this is my opinion of myself. I hate structure, but I crave structure. It's like I use smokeless tobacco. I crave nicotine. I hate nicotine. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I hate being hungover, but I crave alcohol. I was born in chaos. I hate structure, but I crave structure. And so what I started doing is making myself make a list, make myself use my Outlook calendar at work and sync it to my phone and put down in there everything from the 14 tasks I have to do before 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and also pick up dog food and don't forget to buy batteries. Little tiny stuff. Pray for this person. Make sure you call that person. All this stuff. What difference is like, well, this doesn't come natural to me. Well, what difference does it make whether or not it comes natural? If it needs to be done and you have a plan to do it and you have bullet points to make those things happen, then do it. And your day is successful. So when it comes to making a list, when it comes to doing a day planner or something on my phone or whatever, it's like, it doesn't make any difference what process you use to accomplish those things. The bottom line is, use the process and you have a successful day. Follow the process and you have a successful day. Now, an abstract of that would be like in a 12-step, or I think in a lot of different recovery groups, you can talk it to death, but a lot of it really is, until you understand this, shut up and do what you're told. And people don't get sober because they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear, shut up and do what you're told. Well, when you start a new job, or you start a new class, or you start anything that you don't know how to do, there are people there to train you. Well, 9 times out of 10, there's not. But you figure out how to, and you go to work on that first day, and you pick up the task, and you do what's in front of you, and you don't understand what the entire company is about, and their structure, and their management, and all that stuff. You don't understand that. All you're doing is shutting up and doing what you're told. Shutting up and doing what you're told. Now you have some control if you're making lists, if you're using Outlook, if you're formulating a plan ahead of time, if you're getting organized. Nobody cares if you get organized a completely different way than your spouse or your boss or whatever. You do it a totally different way. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. You have a successful day. And this alleviates stress. Now, because my history is hating structure, I will crave chaos. I will find myself backsliding and pursuing chaos, almost as an addiction, because that's where I feel like I belong, is in a chaotic situation. And it's the same thing as when people say, oh, well, that person creates his own drama. Exactly. 9 times out of 10, the things that we're dealing with, the anxieties that we're dealing with, are things that we ourselves have created because we overthink, because we overworry, because we fret about things. And I use the word fret a lot because it's like, okay, you're wringing your hands over this, but you did absolutely nothing to prepare for this. And sooner or later, someone's going to come along, a life coach or whoever you choose, a mentor of some kind is going to come along and say, if you're not going to prepare, then stop bitching. Okay? Because you did none of the background work, and now you're expecting everything to come out great. People, this is a fallen, screwed up, chaotic, unfair world. You can't really expect to get calm, orderly perfectionism out of a screwed up world. And yet what do? We keep pursuing perfection. We keep trying to figure out a way to do this and do that, and it should have came out this way. Well, that's not the world as it is. That's the world as I'm trying to make it. And that very seldom works.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
A shout out this week. I want you guys to go, if you're not already, I want you to go to Joy's Voices at blogspot.com. And on Twitter, it's Joy Pauline Smith. It's at Joy Pauline Smith. She deals with dissociative identity disorder, bipolar, borderline personality, PTSD. She pulls in some really good stuff. It's personalized stuff and her story, but it's also educational. And I really think everyone who's in the mental health community, addiction community, I think you would benefit from seeing what she's got. So again, it's at Joy Pauline Smith on Twitter, joysvoices.blogspot.com. And another verbal shout out to survivingmypast.net. Go there, and there is a 2-part article. It's called Finally Learning Who I Really Am and What I'm Passionate About. I mean, this is the upside to everything that people of similar backgrounds have dealt with. Okay, the trauma, the issues that it's caused. It's there, and if you're still breathing and you're still alive, you're still working on it. But what's described here in this article is the upside, the blessings, the wonder of what's coming down the road, and it's basically turning your mess into a message, and that is huge. It's huge because no amount of textbooks, no amount of doctors, no amount of medication is going to be able to do what you can do if you flip this around and turn your mess into a message. Just go there. Survivingmypast.net, and look for the 2-part article that was posted. Part 2 was posted April 6th. You'll find it. You get there, you'll find it. You're probably more computer literate than I am. Remember to email me at audiorising@gmail.com if you're kind of looking to interact or get involved with the Wrong Armor. I just released Prologue 1 on the website tonight. It's a little bit of an intro story to the main character, a guy by the name of Art Logan. And he's getting through life, and he's not doing all that well at it. I have a feeling as I flesh through these characters and I start presenting these episodes, I think it'll be enlightening for people, and I just want it to be fun. You know, this is something I'm doing for me. I always wanted to write. I'm not really good at it, but it's another one of those things that I've always started and then turn around and stop, and start and it fade out, and start and it fade out. And when I read your guys' articles or posts on I shot myself in the foot again. I didn't get this done. I didn't get that done. Screw it. I was blogging, but I didn't. And I don't record as much as I used to for my podcast. And I'm just, people are listening. Okay. And everything that I can do out there in cyberspace to bring attention to all of the people that I'm running into that have voices and have something to say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to, if I didn't really plan it this way, but I think, if I end up being a little bit of a conduit or a window where different people talk to each other and get interconnected and get encouraged, hey, I'll be the encouraging coach here. I have no problem with it. So love you guys. Want you to have a great night and a great rest of your week. I'm going to start working on the next podcast tomorrow, where I want to dig a little bit into some of the things I'm hearing back and forth regarding religion, for lack of a better term. I really don't like the word because I don't particularly care for the concept. And I am somebody who follows the Bible and tries to pattern my life after what is written there. And there's a lot of stigma attached to believers in any faith. But as I go on, I just want to put some points out there. I don't want to turn it into, Bible study 101 or something. I just want to relay my story, and I hope you guys will give me latitude in being able to do that and not shut me off just because I say Bible or Jesus. So help me out a little. All right. So everybody, take care. See ya.
Opening music by Petra. The album Jekyll and Hyde. The song Jekyll and Hyde. Background music by Incompetech.com. Sound effects by Freesound. Closing music by Effector. The song The Rapture from the album Harmageddon. This has been a production of AudioRising.com 2016.